Tuesday morning to Good Morning Sri Lanka. You're here with me, Amara, and it's great to have all of you on the show this morning. Now, here at MTV Sports, there are lots of topics that we talk about on Good Morning Sri Lanka. There's lifestyle, there's health, and fashion. But I think pride of place will always, of course, go to sports. And when it comes to Sri Lankan sports, now many of you may not know this, but Sri Lanka have become world champions at 3 sports, and that is the first one being snooker, the second being carom, and I think the sport that really takes pride of place in all Sri Lankan hearts, and of course is something that's synonymous with being Sri Lankan, I think, is of course the game of cricket. And I think it's something that from school days everyone plays, even when if it's for recreation or at a competitive level. It really is part of being Sri Lankan, and something that really joins our entire nation together as a whole. So on today's show we are going to speak about a very important club here in Sri Lanka that has been doing a lot to further cricket at a competitive level in Sri Lanka and to take it international as well. It's produced many Sri Lankan players who have gone on to do great things in international cricket, and we have with us 2 very special gentlemen who will be speaking about the history of this particular club as well as future plans, and also we'll be touching on how important sports is in general for the growth of a well-rounded personality. And I think this is a very important topic that many students as well as parents will be very interested in. So without further ado, I'll introduce the guests I have on the show with me this morning. I have just on my right here Mr. Suresh Murugesar. He is the chairman of the Tamil Union Cricket Committee, and he's here with us representing the Tamil Union Cricket Club, the club that I mentioned earlier in my introduction. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
It's great to have you on the show. And of course, a face that would be familiar to many cricket fans out there, and he is someone who has represented Ceylon not only in cricket but in hockey as well in his younger days, and now he's here. He is the president of the Tamil Union Cricket Club, and he's been there for many years, and he has done so much to further the game of cricket. And not only that, he is also the founder of a very large insurance corporation here in Sri Lanka. So he is a many-faceted personality, and it's lovely to have you on the show as well this morning, Mr. Chandra Shafter.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I think I have 2 people who have done a lot to further the game of cricket here in Sri Lanka, and I think I mentioned earlier that both of you have been attached to the Tamil Union Cricket Club for many years now. So before we go into your contributions as well, let's talk about the club in general and the history of it. Now, how did it start out? Mr.
Well, the club started in 1899. In its early days, it was at Campbell Park, which is the Wesley College ground, and it was there that it virtually began among a group of people of Tamil nationality or ethnic origin who wanted to have a club of their own, because the Sinhalese had their clubs, the Burghers had their clubs, the Malays had the Malay Cricket Club, which is much older than all the others. There's the Moors Sports Club, there are the Parsis, the Boras, so quite a few ethnically oriented clubs, and Tamil Union was one among them. And they couldn't stay all for too long at the Campbell Park, and in 1943 or so they moved to its present site in Vanathamulla, where they were given a huge marshy land, and it was filled up and made a cricket ground by the late P. Saravanamuthu.
And I think the Oval, as it's fondly called these days, has become an iconic cricket ground in Sri Lanka now, and it's played host to a lot of great events, hasn't it?
Yes, it is. Iconic is probably a correct word to use, because that is where Test cricket began. The matches, international matches began from 1945. We had the Commonwealth cricket team. We had Vijay Merchant's team from India. In fact, it was the only ground where you could play international matches, because it was the only ground which had a stadium which provided cover for spectators. So for nearly 25 years or more, for nearly 30 years, the Tamil Union was the chosen venue for international matches.
I see. And Mr. Murugesar, if you can speak about how you came to be involved with the club.
Well, I've been there for many, many years because my father was also an ex-president of the club and has been involved with it for many years. So I was brought in there while I was a toddler, and so I virtually grew up there, as I'm sure Mr. Shafter's sons also did. So yes,
it's just part and parcel of who you are, is it?
Absolutely, very much part of my mental makeup, I would say, and very dedicated to that club.
And that's sort of what keeps it going as well, isn't it? The tradition behind the club.
Yes, it's the tradition and the loyalty of its members which keep clubs like this, not only ours, many other clubs like this going. They survive on the loyalty of their members.
And what about you, Mr. Shafter? Now, I'm sure that you have many stories from your days playing for the club as well. So if you could share some with us.
Well, I started playing in 1949 when I was still at school. And then I played the next year, and thereafter I played for nearly 18 years or so.
And you went on to represent Ceylon?
Yes, well, I was playing for the club, I represented Sri Lanka.
And in which years was that?
Pardon?
In which year was that?
That was, I played for Sri Lanka in 54 and again in 58 against the English teams that passed through on their way to Australia. I played some Gopalan Trophy matches as well.
Okay.
But we didn't have much foreign teams visiting us in those days.
I was just going to ask you that. I mean, is there a big difference that you see now between the approach to cricket that we have nowadays and what used to be there in the past?
Definitely. So you were lucky if you had a match every other year from an international team. Whereas now you have half a dozen matches a year. And also after we got test status, it has changed.
I see.
The Gopalan Trophy that he is referring to was basically between the state of Tamil Nadu and the Ceylon Cricket Association, is that right? Yes. So basically it was like an international match. However, it was just a state in Tamil Nadu, of Tamil Nadu against us. So that's when that played annually.
Officially it was the state team versus the Sri Lankan team.
Yes.
So it didn't have international status. But that was the only match we had. It was played every year. And that was the only foreign team that visited us.
Well, and what a difference we have now, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
But do you think that the 1996 World Cup, I think this is one of the favorite topics for everyone to speak of nowadays, did it make a quantum leap in terms of giving Sri Lanka a higher status in cricket, or did that happen before that?
No, from the moment we got test status, we did make a breakthrough. The breakthrough was 20 years too late, really. We should have got it much earlier. But when we did get it, we progressed. We beat India in about 4 or 5 years. We beat Pakistan, and we started doing well. But certainly it was the World Cup. It made a quantum change in our fortunes and in the way people looked at us from other countries. And I think they looked at Sri Lanka differently.
And also when we speak about some of the greats who have come out of the Tamil Union Cricket Club, I think their names are legendary as well. The Muthaya Muralidharan as well as Mahadevan Satasivam who have come out of the union. So I'm sure that you're proud of that as well.
We are very proud because we feel that Satasivam was probably the best batsman ever produced by Sri Lanka, and certainly Muralidharan is the best bowler. So what more do you want?
I know, definitely. So is there like a secret formula somewhere at the Tamil Union Cricket Club? You know, this is the X, Y and Z that you need for a great cricketer?
Not really, but I think also we provided the facilities in the early days, certainly, which many other clubs did not have. So we attracted good players, and so we were able to play regularly on good wickets and improve their game.
And when it comes to the facilities that a cricketer does need, what are the basics that you need in place to really give a good foundation for budding cricketers?
Well, we have gone actually back in the late 70s. We actually went out of Colombo searching for cricketers. I think we were one of the first clubs in the country to start doing that actively, where we actually went down to places like Galle and brought some of those boys back into Colombo, gave them accommodation and food. Even to this day we do this. We've got about at the moment about 12 to 13 guys staying in an accommodation situation there upstairs in the media center, and we give them their food, especially at the under 23 level, which is the level where they need nurturing, because many of them do not have accommodation options here.
Yes. Yeah.
So so that's what we've done. We've nurtured quite a lot, and a very pertinent thing that I would like to state is that although the club is named the Tamil Union, it's at this point in time, I don't think we have a single Tamil boy playing for us for whatever reason. So, we really are very multicultural in that aspect, and we don't have any sort of worries on that score.
Definitely. So a club that has really gone beyond the boundaries of just ethnicity, and it's gone on to do a lot of great things for cricket here in Sri Lanka. We're going for a very short break on Good Morning Sri Lanka, but stay with us. We'll be right back.